yeah, today I'll be talking about a high-impact practice that I implemented in my upper-level history courses. This is a high-impact redesign that really grew out of my frustration with the status quo I was having in my classes. I really value discussion as a part of teaching and learning history. So I always set my classes up to be essentially half lecture, half discussion. On one day, one of our meetings each week will be lecture, the other meeting will be discussion of assigned reading materials. And throughout my first year, I just became incredibly frustrated because I realized the students weren't doing the readings at all. They just, we'd have on discussion days, maybe there'd be a higher number of absences. Students would just blow off that meeting. And those that did attend, it was clear they hadn't done the readings, they didn't answer any of the questions, or have really any sort of meaningful discussion about the material. So I did some small tweaks to try to address that. This is my second year, by the way. So throughout my first year, last year, I made some small tweaks to try to address that. So I started bringing a typed up list of reading questions to class. I put the students into groups, assign each group a couple of questions, let them discuss them first, and then we talk about them as a large group. But I found that even then, they really weren't doing the readings in advance. They were just coming to class, waiting until I gave them their questions, and then reading the few pages they needed to read to be able to answer that question or talk about it a little bit. And so I sort of had an epiphany that sort of grew out of the really poor discussions we were having. Didn't get much out of them, really dismal experience that was kind of depressing and frustrating. So I had this epiphany to implement a more a sort of reading and writing intensive nature to the course. And I did this by implementing a reading response assignment, making them do weekly reading responses. So those questions that I would type up and bring to class and put them into groups to answer. Now I was sending those questions out a week in advance and having them type up answers to those questions, print them out, and bring them to class on the day of discussion to really hold them accountable to actually do the readings in advance, think about the questions, and actually be prepared to discuss them on the day that we met. And to really try to make sure they didn't blow off this assignment, I made it 55% of their grades. They had sufficient motivation and incentive to do this, realizing that it would be impossible for them to pass the course if they blew this off. I was a little concerned, however, that this would produce a backlash. I was a little worried that students might sort of mutiny against this sort of rigorous requirement where they're writing every single week of the course, quite a large amount. But I was hopeful, nevertheless, that the students would see the rewards of this and be inspired by this sort of more rigorous expectation standard. So this is what the reading responses, questions that I sent around look like. Typically, this is just a random selection. So again, this would be sent around a week in advance for every week of the semester that we had a discussion day. This is actually kind of one of the shorter lists of questions that I sent around, usually for about a page and a half of questions like that. And so I, again, have this concern that this could backfire on me and that students might become really frustrated or demoralized over the course of the semester, get really tired of doing this every week, and sort of, I was worried that the morale of the class could really slip if I wasn't careful. So I tried to develop some strategies to ensure that this redesign, making it so much more writing intensive, would actually have a positive impact instead of a negative one. So one thing that I tried to make sure to do was to align my course policies with those high expectations to ensure that the students felt properly motivated and rewarded for this assignment. So again, as we saw before, This was worth 55% of the grade, so they had real incentive to do it. And it didn't just feel like busy work, it actually felt like a substantial component of the course. And I also tried to reinforce for them how important I thought this assignment was. So I constantly reminded them, in my view, history is all about developing an understanding of complex ideas and then being able to communicate those ideas in a clear and meaningful way, right? And that's what you're doing every week in this course with these reading responses. So I'm trying to really reinforce not only that this is a big part of your grade, you're going to be rewarded if you do well on these by getting a grade in the class, but also that these are really important to me personally. I believe this is an important part of studying history, and I sort of reminded them as well that this will make the class so much more enjoyable, right? Because we'll actually be able to have meaningful discussions about these questions and the material that I've given you. So I hoped that they would see the benefit, and also try to keep morale in the class high by continually trying to sort of inspire them, remind them that I'm really proud of the work you're doing, right? Realize I'm asking you to do a lot. I really appreciate the hard work that you put into the class. I'm really proud of the effort that you're giving, these kind of things, just to continue to encourage them and keep the morale of the course up. So this is an example of the results. This is some of the material that I got. This is, again, one student's work. These two slides are an example of one student's work contributed on a weekly basis. So that's about 6 pages or 5.5 pages, single-spaced, again, on a weekly basis. And that's an exceptional student. She did quite well over the course of the semester. She wrote about 50 single-spaced pages, which double-spaced out, that's 100 pages, longer than a master's thesis. So quite an impressive body of work for the semester. This is sort of more typical of what I received, around 2.5 pages per week in response to these questions. And so it really did have an amazing impact at the end of the day. It was not just a transformative experience for me, but also for the students, but also for me as well. In terms of the class, it made it so much more fun to teach. Instead of dreading going to class and having these discussions where I had to pull teeth to get anything out of them, discussion was just free and easy. It just it was really magical, I have to say. Went from a situation where maybe 2 students in the class had done the reading and had something to say, to a situation where only 2 students in the class didn't have anything to say on a given day. So it just completely transformed the class. And then made it such a great experience for me. Inspired me, motivated me, made me look forward to going to class. I really sort of cherished those days and look forward to them. So it was really rejuvenating for me as well. And I think that the students felt good about it too. So sort of moving on to an assessment part of this presentation. I'll show you some of the evaluations from the course. Again, despite the fact that students were writing 12 pages a week, some of them every single week received the highest evaluations I've ever received in the course. So to put it in perspective, this course was taught last fall. The previous fall, my first semester here, the numerical score for my evals in my upper level class were 3.7. So that's a full point higher than, and they were doing much more work than I asked them to do in that first semester. So again, it seems that raising the bar, having those high expectations, rather than sort of demoralizing them or frustrating them, actually did inspire them. They felt rewarded. They felt like they got more out of the course and evaluated it more highly as a result, I would say. Here's some of the written comments on the course, perhaps. So the question of what most contributed to your learning, you can see every single thing is about the reading responses. Every single comment is The questions made the subject clearer and interesting when discussing in class. I believe these questions were more valuable than just reading a book and writing a paper. I really liked having the reading response questions. Discussions were valuable. Discussions over our reading assignments. So again, if you look at the written feedback, everyone sort of commented positively on that aspect of the class and seemed to see the value in it. So I'll sort of end my presentation today with an anecdote about just how impactful this transformation was, and this technique, I guess you would say. Last semester, my dissertation director from the University of Kentucky came to visit me here at Dalton State just to see how things were going and adjusting well and so forth. So he came to visit my class that implemented this. It was on a Monday. So the night before, I met him in Chattanooga, and we had dinner and catching up, and it was like, you won't believe how my class is going this semester. I've implemented this new redesign where I give out these reading response questions, and it's just completely transformed the class. It's incredible. Everybody contributes to discussion. We have these great conversations, really better than anything I've ever experienced. And he was kind of like, yeah, sure, you know, he's kind of politely humoring me, but really skeptical of what I was telling him. And so the next day, he visits me here at Dalton State and leads the class that I implemented this design, and leads the discussion over one of the books I assigned for that day. And afterwards, he sort of, we were back in my office, he was like, you know, I didn't really believe you yesterday when this class had been transformed. But he said it was a wonderful class, and told me with sincerity, I would trade your group of students for my honors class at the University of Kentucky. And so is it that Dalton State just gets a much better brand of student than the honors program at the University of Kentucky? Probably not. I think it speaks to the power of really setting a high bar for the students and setting these high expectations. And just seeing them rise to that challenge, rise to that occasion, and the transformation it creates. I think that's what sort of created that result. Thank you for letting me share that story of where I'm at on time.
Jeff, I want to congratulate you on being incredibly brave. Really, as a relatively new faculty member to do this, it was just remarkable.
No,
and I saw that there were 12 students in total enrolled in this class. Did any of them drop?
Yeah, so that was part of it.
Thanks.
At the beginning of the semester, I lost 3 students. So 3 ended up dropping, which isn't a really high amount, I don't think. And I've actually, in my class teaching this semester, the Holocaust course, it's the same requirement except kind of doubled because the class is essentially all discussion except for the first month of the course, doing lectures to set up what the Holocaust is, etc. But the rest of the course is all discussion, so they're doing this assignment twice a week. And I've had no drops in that class. Still have 15 students.
Is this a required class?
That class, well, it's an upper level elective that you can choose amongst others.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, everybody. I was so impressed by your talking about this in the fall at one of the HIPS things that I implemented it this.
Oh.
Actually, I implemented it this semester. And my class, the class is the ethics of science, and it's a 200 level class. And while I've had some improvement, I haven't experienced anything like this. Of course, I don't have student evals yet anyway, but it does definitely help, but I'm still having trouble getting the discussions going. It's like these kids seem so incredibly unwilling to discuss. They do the questions,
Yeah.
And they do a wonderful job on the questions. And the main thing, because I've been assigning big questions, in my class I call them questions to ponder because they're looking at the ethics of some topic.
I just have a quick question. Are we okay with the projector because OCIS is here?
Yeah, it's been
We're
working
okay?
so far.
Okay.
So they've been answering the questions. But what I did differently was, thank you for this piece of advice. I had them put the questions in a Dropbox, and they were all due the day before the discussion. Stupid me, I hadn't had them do the day before the discussion. Anyway, but it's not, I'm still not getting the kind of discussions I want. I'm still getting the, like I've gone from, 2 or 3 people being willing to discuss to 5 or 6 people being willing to discuss, but that's still just about 50%.
Yeah.
So do you have any suggestions, or what do you think might be different? It is a 2,000 level course as opposed to a 3,000 level course.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that might not be part of it, the 8
think that
students.
could-
What percentage did you attach to it? Because 55% of the grade.
Oh, it's 50%. The questions are 50% of the grade. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing, it could be that it's an upper level class, where you've got history students here in this class that know each other, had multiple classes together, so they're more comfortable talking. Whereas maybe you have undergrad or sort of
Yeah,
lower level
I hate to take this question, Tom, but this just occurred to me. It might also be, we do hard-hitting things in the ethics. We're not discussing like the philosophy of ethics.
Yeah.
We're discussing the American eugenics movement
Yeah.
and
People
stem
are a
cell
little shy.
research, and so it may be that the topic's just scarier. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, what? It's just a regular size classroom. It's just a regular classroom. It holds 32.
How many students? You have 30 students in the class?
Oh, between 15 and 20. Yeah, because, it's small. No, I wouldn't try that in a big class. Yeah.
The thing about having those that you could do is that, again, if the students have their responses there's nothing then that could stop you from saying, please read your response, just calling on students to read out what they wrote.
Oh,
And then use that as a basis for discussion.
I think we can
you're
just,
so smart.
wrap up the questions. Sorry, you can ask Jeff more questions later. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. We need to get moving on the next resolution. All right, thank you, Jeff.